Well, to discuss the matric exams, we're now joined by education expert, Professor Mary Metcalfe, who is a Senior Research Associate at Wits University. Thanks so much indeed for joining us, and welcome to the program.
Thank you, Peter.
All right, and under normal circumstances, we normally just have nerves because of the exams, but this year we have the largest numbers in terms of cohorts, plus COVID-19, plus a difficult year of sometimes remote learning, virtual learning. So everything that was challenging, probably all happening at the same time. That's quite a lot to take in.
You know, it's a lot, Peter, and always when we look at the matric exams, the National Senior Certificate, I'm very conscious that we're talking about so many individuals in families with their own concerns and their own insecurities and anxieties and pressures, but we're also looking at a system as a whole. So we have to look at both. We have to encourage the learners individually, encourage their families to provide them with support, but we also need to step back and look at the challenges that the system is experiencing. And I think the Minister was able to explain very clearly that the grade 11s of last year only, well, they lost a good 4 or 5 months or even 6 months of schooling, which meant that they would not have been able to cover the curriculum for grade 11, the syllabus. And that means that coming into grade 12, an extra effort was required. The clip showed Cheryl Weston explaining that schools, teachers, families, parents, learners have worked as much as they can across the country, holidays, weekends, evenings, to try and catch up the time. But we have to, as South Africans, realize that COVID has had a huge dent on the time available for learning, and this is going to be put pressure on our children for years to come.
So with that in mind, how do you think our students will fare this year?
Last year we saw a small decline, and the Minister and many of the commentators and experts were saying that they found that small decline in the pass rate was realistic because the matric standard has to be the same year on year. A person who achieves a National Senior Certificate pass in 2020 or 2021 must know that pass has the same validity, it has the same worth as in any other year. Now, if the matric result did not decline a little, I think people would be a little bit suspicious that standards had been lowered. Standards were not lowered. Umalosi is the body that quality assures the DBE exam. Umalosi was able to say we have maintained standards. The pass rate has declined, but actually, given the national, international nature of the impact of COVID, we did well. There were many countries who were not able to go back to school in this continent and internationally, as well as South Africans were. What does it mean for the results of 2021? I think that it would be unrealistic to expect a great improvement. But going back to where we started, there's individuals, there's families, people are doing their best, and we mustn't discourage them. We must be able to say, keep on working, keep on being supported by your teachers, and then let's take a step back when the results come out to see what the results tell us about how the system has been able to adjust to COVID.
And talking about the system, I guess because of last year, we almost had one run or one crack at it doing matric during COVID, so that a lot of things were learned, weren't they? Probably will mitigate a bit this year.
Well, running the exams is not the difficult part. Schools have had 18 months plus of experience of running a school under conditions of COVID. They have found solutions to the challenges that they are faced with in terms of sanitizing, ventilation, physical distancing. So the actual running of the exams, I don't think, is the major challenge. The major challenge has been trying to catch up as much of the lost learning time as is possible.
All right, so 700,000 matric students. I mean, this is an enormous number. We haven't built that many more universities, so already there's a headache waiting for us at the end of this.
Well, one of the things that we need to start rethinking as a country is whether, we should be seeing access to university as the key focus of post-matric aspirations. In this country, we need to be able to diversify where people see the possibilities for the future. That university education is one form of post-school education, but there's so many opportunities that are vocational, that are occupational, other than universities. And we've got to, I think, change the narrative that exists in the way that we talk about the National Senior Certificate, that universities is one of the options, but there also are other options that can be pursued in vocational education and training. The new universities that we have seen in the country in the last 20 years include Soplaki in the Northern Cape, and of course the Makgatu University in Mpumalanga. I'm not sure how many additional places that has created, but many of our universities actually do have the capacity to take in more students. But it's the responsibility of the Department of Higher Education and Training to guide universities through the subsidies and the formulas for subsidies as to how many learners should be accommodated in different courses. So post-school education and training and the national imagination needs to really open up to looking at new possibilities.
And you know, the thing about COVID-19, what it did was there was a disruption process already in play with 4IR and things like that. But then COVID-19 accelerated that, which meant that our curriculums and preparing ourselves and our children for future work also needed to be disrupted quite significantly. But I wonder if that did happen in terms of changing the curriculum and preparing our students for future work.
You know, Peter, when you raised the question of the Fourth Industrial Revolution, this is something that hopefully must happen. But there's so many impediments at the moment to the full utilization of the possibilities of even just the internet, which is Third Industrial Revolution, not even Fourth Industrial Revolution. And let's take the challenges that learners have experienced during COVID of learning at home. Now, in many well-resourced contexts, children have been able to learn at home because they've got devices that they have access to whenever they need them. They've got access to Wi-Fi that's reliable, affordable. And then for many learners, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. The connection is about,
okay.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so I'll carry on again.
Okay.
But for the majority of learners, they don't have devices, they don't have Wi-Fi, they don't have reliable Wi-Fi, they don't have an ecosystem of support. So if we're going to be able to have equitable access for all of our learners to these opportunities to learn independently at home, the whole ecosystem of support for access to the internet has to be improved in South Africa.
Professor Mary Metcalfe, we're going to have to leave it there for this evening, but yeah, let's keep our fingers crossed. These young people have been brave and had to do a lot of hard work through challenging times, and hopefully they'll be rewarded at the end of this journey.
Thank you, Peter. It was good to talk to you.
Thank you.